Greetings. This is your brother Elder Blacklight, your motivator. If you don't comprehend the divinity that's within yourself, then you can never manifest heaven for yourself. Last video, I was saying how brothers, sisters, the black people are dying to enter into the White House, the House of America, built by black people, but designed and made for white people. I said also that there will be a hot summer. It started already. It was always there, but it always comes out. The violence manifests itself in the summer months, the warmer months. For example, the video speaks for itself. Minnesota. Me and my grandson took a trip up to Minnesota about 10 years ago. And it was so peaceful.
Minnesota, hours-long protests being held outside of Minneapolis after a black man was shot by police after officers say he fled from a traffic stop.
The 20-year-old later died, now his family and others demanding answers. 12 News reporter Kayla Fish, live at the Breaking News Center this morning with the latest.
Oh, it's only been about 4 hours since protesters dispersed from the city of Brooklyn Center, according to the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. That following a night of clashes between police and hundreds of protesters. Authorities say protesters threw rocks and other objects at police, and businesses had been broken into. The National Guard activated to help. A curfew now in effect. This unrest was spurred by an officer-involved shooting in the city Sunday afternoon. Police say they stopped the driver and attempted to arrest him on an outstanding warrant. Police say the driver re-entered the vehicle and drove away. According to police, an officer fired at the vehicle, striking the driver, who crashed several blocks away. Mourners, including the family of 20-year-old Dante Wright, gathered at the scene of that crash demanding answers. Wright's mother said he called her just before the shooting.
That he was getting pulled over by the police. And I said, well, why did you get pulled over? He said they pulled him over because he had air fresheners hanging from the rearview mirror. He was only 20 years old, and he didn't deserve to be shot and killed like this.
Now, the city of Brooklyn Center is on the border of Minneapolis, where tensions are already high, less than a year following the death of George Floyd at the hands of police. The courtroom where former police officer Derek Chauvin is currently on trial in connection with Floyd's murder is only about 10 miles away from Brooklyn Center.
Remember what I said earlier. They're heading for a moneyless and gunless society. Biden is getting ready to pass some kind of law concerning gun-free America. In the meanwhile, the police gonna have guns. The National Guard's gonna have guns. And some well-to-do Caucasian gonna have guns. But you're not gonna have no protection. You ain't gonna have guns. So what must you do in a situation like that? You're gonna have to go within yourself and call on a higher power. Check this out.
And we got 45 caliber shell casings here at the scene. One of the victims is advising that there is a woman and kids inside the house. So we've got forced entry into the residence, possibly victims inside.
A suburban southern town engulfed by a grisly crime.
County Vietnam, we've got four down inside the house.
A prominent doctor known as a pillar in his community, shot dead.
Robert was a physician, but with his medical practice of as many years as he's had it, he looked at it as a ministry. He looked at it as a way he could reach out and help people.
His wife shot and killed too, and their 2 grandchildren and a contractor who happened to be working on the home, plus 1 other injured. And the former NFL football player who police say shot them all, and then himself, leaving many wondering why.
We have no indication right now that there was a doctor-patient relationship between Dr. Leslie and Philip Adams.
If you think about who he killed, the doctor, his wife, and 2 relatively young grandchildren, I mean, this is a guy who just doesn't care who he kills.
As the country grapples with its 133rd mass shooting just this year, with another occurring just today in Bryan, Texas, a reported workplace shooting that left 1 dead and 4 critically injured, it's a sobering reality, and the president has vowed to take action.
This is an epidemic, for God's sake, and it has to stop.
Rock Hill, South Carolina. A quiet town of just over 75,000. Dr. Robert Leslie is a well-known and well-respected physician here, running 2 emergency medical clinics.
They took you as you are. They loved you as you came to them. They loved everyone that they met.
It's a sunny Wednesday afternoon. Dr. Leslie, his wife Barbara, and 2 of their grandchildren, Ada and Noah, are all home. HVAC technicians James Lewis and Robert Shook are outside working.
911.
Yes, ma'am. I think we've had some trouble at 4456 Marshall Road.
What's going on Marshall Road?
I think there's been a bad shooting.
A concerned neighbor out cutting grass hears shots and sees someone in the distance.
The guy walked out of the house. I'm quite sure I seen him from a distance. It looked like a black guy.
By 4:45 p.m., sheriff's deputies are called to the Leslie's home.
First deputies arrived on the scene 8 minutes after that, those 2 911 calls. Then we immediately began to assemble a team to clear the house of Dr. Robert Leslie.
Dr. Leslie, his wife Barbara, and their 2 grandchildren are all found dead on the scene, as well as the HVAC contractor, James Lewis. His colleague, Robert Shook, is critically injured.
Once we cleared the home, we found Dr. Robert Leslie and his wife Barbara and their 2 grandchildren in a room in the back of the house, all deceased with gunshot wounds.
Did he find them in that room, or did he make his way into the house and force them all into a room at gunpoint? Perhaps, we'll see.
Neighbors nearby are evacuated as the search for a suspect begins.
Once the investigation began, we were able to develop Philip Adams as a suspect.
32-year-old former NFL player Philip Adams, whose parents live just minutes away from the Leslies, becomes the center of the investigation. Adams holes up in his family home, and a tense, hours-long standoff between Adams and law enforcement ensues, where investigators try to negotiate his surrender.
And so for a period of, it sounds like hours, they tried to communicate with somebody that didn't respond. So at some point, they decide to send a robot into the house to do an analysis and look for people.
Just before 3 a.m., after clearing the home, police discover Adams dead after an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Neighbors and loved ones stunned, left searching for answers. Adams' father speaking to an NBC affiliate this morning.
Well, I can say that he's a good kid. He was a good kid, and I think the football messed him up. So all I can tell you, we pray for the family that, and I used to be my doctor a long time ago.
The motive remains unclear.
There's nothing about this right now that makes sense to any of us.
As the sheriff looks for the motivations for this mass shooting, was Adams a patient of the doctor? Did he have concussions from playing football that could have certainly an adverse potential effect on his behavior? All of these things they're going to have to look at.
For the most part, a lot of people do know everyone, so it is a smaller town.
Breaking news out of Minnesota. Hours-long protests being held outside of Minneapolis after a black man was shot by police after officers say he fled from a traffic stop.
The 20-year-old later died. Now his family and others demanding answers. 12 News reporter Kayla Fish. Live.
Controversial traffic stop of a black and Latino Army officer in December has been fired. Body camera footage shows Windsor, Virginia police officers Joe Gutierrez and Daniel Crocker pointing their guns at Army Second Lieutenant Karan Nazario before Gutierrez pepper sprays him. Lieutenant